Hello, and welcome to episode 23 of What If Civilization Started Over. In the last episode, we saw a lot more colonization, the collapses of Russia and Mongolia and Persia, and a few other things, so if you missed that, go watch it. But with that, we're going to get right into episode 23. The first thing that's going to be happening in episode 23 is actually a colonial thing, as this is going to be the most colonial episode probably of the whole series, besides maybe episode... I don't know, another episode that I'm planning to do in the future. But anyway, Andalusia is invading into Senegal, as you can clearly see. And Guinea will also take the opportunity because they want a coastline. And even West Ghana is going to start their own invasion, as the three countries will divide up Senegal between them. And just like that, they have divided up Senegal, with some of it becoming an Andalusian protectorate, as Andalusia gains hegemony over West Africa. But that's not the only thing that's going to happen, as Galicia, who's kind of Andalusia's main competitor at this time, will come over here to Angola and set up a series of, shall we say, outposts over here, claiming all the territory that's unclaimed. And one of these outposts becomes big enough to become a major city. And they're using this as sort of like a trading thing, so that their ships can stop here, and they can stop again in Madagascar, where they set up another colony, before they can trade with India, which is like a really big trade partner, so everyone wants to start trading with India. Sorry if these look different, I just realized I messed something up really badly, but it's fixed now. But as I was saying, India is a massive trading partner. So everyone kind of wants to trade with India, and India wants to trade with everyone, so having like a colony in Madagascar is really helpful for that purpose, as the other European countries are going to start doing the same. So England really wants to like kind of become the leader of the south of the world, kind of. So they will basically buy a huge area of land from Namibia and set up a colony there for them to be able to trade. And then they will also set up a colony in Mozambique for them to be able to trade, as they all want to be able to get to India. But this is not it, because Spain also wants to be able to get to India. However, they have a new plan, and basically they have the idea for the Suez Canal, but it's a little too early to dig the Suez Canal. It's a little too early for them to build the Suez Canal, but they basically have the idea that if they can ship their stuff to Egypt, then Egypt can sell it to India, and they can like basically make a huge deal with Egypt. And so they actually will make a sort of the first economic alliance, I would call it. But I'm just going to show it as a regular alliance, because I don't think there's that big of a difference between economic and regular alliances that this needs to be shown as separate. We'll show it in green because it is the only economic alliance, but basically Spain and Egypt make a deal where basically Egypt will sell Spanish goods to India and give Spain all the money for it, but like, Egypt gets to take a cut, so not actually. But these two become very close allies, and so Spain sort of, not yet because Egypt is strong enough to defend themselves, but if Egypt ever gets weak, Spain will become kind of protective over India. A country that is becoming very weak, though, is Carthage. Carthage is basically facing a minor internal rebellion, and they ask for countries to help them with that. And Spain will come to the rescue, as these rebellions are mostly on Sardinia and Sicily, and so Spain will crush these rebellions. But basically they say, Carthage, you owe us a ridiculous amount of money that Carthage can't pay, and they force Carthage to sell them the islands. And what Spain really wants to do is to make Carthage into a protectorate, and so they it stays like this for a while. However, Carthage is kind of still unstable, and Libya wants to take advantage of this now, as they begin invading into... This is going to be a very colonial episode, I realize everything that I've done so far is colonialism. But anyway, Libya starts invading into Carthage, because they think it's like their theocratic divine right or whatever. And then Andalusia tells the Moroccan puppet to start invading into Carthage, and Spain basically says, hey, Carthage, we can help you out if you basically sell yourself into protectorate status, and Carthage has no choice, as they will do just that. And Spain is therefore able to start kicking Libya's butt, as Egypt will also help Spain out in their goal of defeating Libya. And Libya is forced to surrender, and Spain and Andalusia all of a sudden hate each other because of this conflict, as their tensions immediately rise a ridiculous amount. For now, they sign an uneasy treaty over here, where Morocco will withdraw from Andalusia, or from Carthage, but Spain and Andalusia are having high tensions. Meanwhile, Egypt will annex the Libyan capital as a reward for helping out Spain, forcing them to move their capital to this city, and the ideology is going to be moved as well. Like so. In Eastern Europe, there's going to be a lot of wars after the collapse of Russia, because Russia was very unstable and they did not help themselves when they collapsed. So, for example, this is just an example of one of the many things that will happen, but there's a border dispute between Scandinavia and Estonia, who doesn't have a capital for some reason. Let me fix that. There we go. And Scandinavia will start an invasion into Estonia, as it'll go very well, taking Helsinki, which I think is around here, as well as just taking where St. Petersburg is, although there's no city there in this timeline. And eventually, there's kind of a stalemate over here, and no peace is ever signed, so it's kind of like the Korean thing, where it's an eternal stalemate, but this land will effectively and de jure be annexed into Scandinavia, as they become more of just a general Nordic country. In the colonies, all of the Canadian islands, and I guess I'm not really going in order as much in this episode, I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit because this is a very colonial episode. But all of the Canadian islands will be discovered, like so, and immediately they will also be claimed by Belgium. Meanwhile, the west of the continent is being divided up between Spain and Andalusia, who are kind of upset with each other because they don't know how to divide the continent, and so there's kind of like a race to get settlers into places. So this land will go over there, and this land will go over to Spain. Not all of that land, just this land, as they also are kind of racing to discover the western parts of Canada to colonize them, as well as Alaska, because Manchuria is way too weak to colonize Alaska the way Russia did in our timeline. Speaking of Russia, more post-Russian chaos, as Romania will declare war on Serbia and begin an invasion into Serbia, which goes very well because Serbia is kind of weak. As Poland will also declare war on Serbia to get some free land out of it, and Serbia will surrender to the invading parties as long as they get to keep their capital and their country. Some of the worst border gore in the universe is created, as Serbia becomes a very tiny country, the smallest in the world, in fact. As Poland decides, as a joke, pretty much, to annex a bunch of this territory, because they said you wanted to keep your capital, but you didn't say you wanted to keep anything else. So that's fun. And then Greece, Greece begins an invasion into Albania, and will swiftly annex the whole country. Mesopotamia will suddenly just sort of, their government will just kind of stop working, as I'm just going to say basically their ideology collapses, like their monarchy just doesn't have an heir, basically, is what happened. And there's some people who are advocating, let's do a new monarchy. Some people want a theocracy and some people want a democracy. That's kind of a theme that's happening right now. I did that in Central Asia as well. And these are the three regions, red being democracy, green is theocracy, and blue is monarchy. And the theocracy and democracy regions will kind of sign a truce with each other. And honestly, they recognize each other as separate countries that are independent. But monarchy wants to reclaim the entire country, and so they will start doing just that. However, Egypt is really strong. They're the second strongest non-colonial country, with India being the strongest, as they will basically seize all of the monarchic territory over here and return this territory back to the anti-monarchists, as the anti-monarchists are starting to defeat the monarchists, And the monarchists kind of say, hey, you want to just keep our original territories? And everyone finally agrees to that. Oh, and capital-wise, we need to add capitals. We're going to have the capitals here and here. And just like that, Mesopotamia has officially collapsed. Turkey doesn't have a capital. It's always fun to realize that a country doesn't have a capital. So now Turkey does have a capital. Okay, let's go over to East Asia, because I haven't done anything there in a really long time. That's mostly because the situation has actually been very stable in East Asia ever since the end of the war. Japan had kind of designed it to be very stable, and now they're isolationists, so they can't interrupt anything. These countries are way too unstable to do anything, and because most of them are islands, nothing can really happen with them. India is a stabilizing force in the West. Yangtze desperately needs stability because everyone hates them, and that's actually what's going to happen right now. But also, these guys also don't have a capital. What is wrong with me in not doing capitals? But anyway, Yangtze is about to get attacked, and they're getting attacked by India, because India doesn't like that they have a reasonably strong country on their border. They would love for all of the countries on their borders to be extraordinarily weak. And so they will start attacking Yangtze, taking the city, and starting to... Basically, they just go for the cities, but they also burn down the lands on the way. And it's a very effective strategy as they start dividing up the country into effectively what are regions that kind of lose the control of the actual government. And just in case you thought this wasn't bad enough, the original areas that were part of Yangtze that actually gave them a coastline will be invaded by China, and at this point Yangtze will be like, hey, we can have a peace deal where we don't you acknowledge that we're not surrendering, and we will give you some stuff. And just like that, Yangtze has been Yangtze has been weakened to enough of an extent that India can feel satisfied that they are no longer a threat. But actually India is going to want to take this territory as well. So, yeah, India is continuing to get stronger, but they're still kind of worried about the colonialists. They can kind of see where things are going, and they want to get even stronger so they can defend the world from colonialism. In Australia, the North Australian colony will break away from Eastern Indonesia, and then they will start expanding their realm to be more of Northern Australia. Meanwhile, the Eastern Australian country will do the same, and they will even colonize Tasmania. But very few more cities are going to pop up. And now I think we're ready for the final chapter of colonialism, as the rest of the colonial frontier will be discovered, as Alaska is fully explored by the racing colonial powers. However, and this is going to be what the next episode focuses on, because there's a massive dispute where basically these three countries all claim all of the land that remains. So I'm not going to actually color it in. They will basically be going to war over this in the next episode. Meanwhile, the rest of South America is explored, and unlike in North America, these three countries are much more amicable towards each other. Mostly, actually, England is the helpful one here, because they don't claim too much, and they then are able to act as an arbitrator between the other two, coming up with a line the other two can both agree is fair, that if... here's the thing about this line. If Brittany had proposed it, Galicia would have said that's not a fair line. And if Galicia had proposed it, Brittany would have said that's not a fair line. But because England proposed it, they're both like, yeah, that actually is a fair line. And a lot more cities are going to pop up. The South American colonies are the ones where, people are actually living there. The North American colonies are mostly there for prestige, honestly. Andalusia is the one that does the most populating of their colonies. Belgium also does a little bit of populating in the American part of their colonies. Spain does very little populating. But yeah, the colonies are starting to outpopulate the European homelands despite the population density of Western Europe. So that's going to be fun in the next episode. But Andalusia, Spain, and Belgium are all going to be at war with each other because they all hate each other. Before that happens, though, Brittany and Galicia have pretty good relations after that whole South American thing, and so they basically threaten southern France, and first they demand they give Brittany this territory, then they demand that they give Galicia this territory, then they demand that Brittany gives them, or that they give Brittany this territory, and then they just demand that Brittany become protectorate, which they do because they don't really have another choice. And these two are very, very close, and